I'm Andy,
I'm Drew.
and this is Spork.
Spork. So this week on Spork, we are probably rewriting the most of NFL's history from about 1997 on, I would say, right?
That's a lot of rewriting, but yes, that's probably the best way to describe it.
So the focal point of this is Peyton Manning's decision to return to Tennessee for his senior year. We're undoing that, and he is going into the 1997 NFL draft. And
probably the most pro-ready prospect since John Elway.
Yeah.
It's pretty high praise by the scouts.
Yeah. So he gets up there, and so he chose to go back because he didn't want to play for the Jets. But we're forcing him there for the next 30 to 45 minutes, however long this takes to get through.
Yeah, because we can't. I think if we went down the rabbit hole of saying, well, what if they traded the pick, this, that, and the other? Like, we would be here for a week.
Yeah, and it's not like they have family history of forcing a trade to a team that they won or anything, right? So
yeah, I mean, yeah, never.
We might circle back to that.
Yeah, probably.
So we have Peyton Manning joining the 1997-98 New York Jets with the big tuna himself, Bill Parcells. And who's the defensive coordinator for them?
A guy named Bill?
Yeah, Bill Belichick.
Belichick, yeah.
So maybe I'll talk about kind of what happened and how Belichick left, and then we'll kind of circle back around on why he doesn't leave, right?
Yes, of course.
So Bill Parcells was towards the end of his, I'll say, coaching career. He kept telling everybody that anyway, and was the Patriots head coach from 93 to 96, said he would come to New York, turn it around. And when he left there, he actually had a contract that wouldn't allow him to coach anywhere else. So they ended up forfeiting some picks as a result of hiring him. And luckily that wouldn't have been this Peyton Manning pick, because then it's just not even a conversation at that point. But he brought his top assistant, Bill Belichick, with him. Eventually, he became a GM and said that Belichick was going to be his head coach. And then he said, you know what? I'm going to resign. I'd rather go have more control over everything in New England than stay here. And, I think he kind of saw what the Jets were going to be for the next few years, didn't really have anything, and saw an opportunity to go and make, say, his own impression in New England, right?
Yes.
And, I didn't know it. I knew there was some weird stuff around him leaving the Jets. I didn't realize he wrote, "I resign" on the back of a napkin, basically.
Yeah. I mean, it's so crazy, right? But I guess it is like a legal document. It doesn't matter what kind of paper you write it on, as long as it's on paper.
So so now with him having, I almost messed up there, having Peyton Manning there with him, I think he probably stays, right? And maybe even shifts up the dynasty that was made in New England for the Belichick timeline, right?
Right. Yeah, I mean, Belichick wanted a quarterback, and in this scenario, the Jets would have that quarterback. Whether or not, I mean, we all kind of know that Peyton took his lumps his rookie year. Mm-hmm. I think Belichick would have been a little bit more patient than Bill Parcells in this scenario. So I think Bill stays around thinking, hey, I can mold this guy into what his potential is.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is that 97 season, they actually ended up going the 98 season is when they went to the AFC Championship game, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
In 1998 with Vinny Testaverde. So, I think you put Peyton's second season in the NFL there. Yeah, it's hard to directly equate lines, and stats and everything, but you think that they have a good structure. They got Curtis Martin there. They got Keyshawn Johnson. They have some really good skill players on offense to help maybe lighten the load that at the time Indianapolis didn't really have there for them.
Right. I mean, they would have, I kind of look at it, with us being Bengals guys, right? The Jets would have had one of these heavy skill, awesome quarterback, or at least quarterback with a ton of potential kind of teams, but their offensive line would have struggled a little bit because some of the draft capital that they did get for trading the number one pick, helped their offensive line or, ultimately, I believe. Now I'm going to check myself, but those are notes I had.
I believe you. So, but they, so with him being there, and I feel like, and we talked about this before we started recording, like there's so many rabbit holes we're going to go down. So, I think just kind of lay out our rough outline here before we get too far down and don't know how to get back. So I think we kind of focus on what Peyton can do with the Jets and Belichick and New York, and then what that means really for New England. And then I'll say kind of the third phase of it would probably be the Big Apple Manning Bros, right?
Yeah.
Or the Super Manning Bros. I don't know, Mario Bros, something like that in New York. I don't know. There's a catchier title there.
We can try to make it work.
So let's go. So how's it play out for Peyton up there? I mean, I think everybody is widely accepted that Belichick really So Charlie Weiss was actually the offensive coordinator and Bill Belichick defensive coordinator, and that was really where he kind of made his name, right, on the defensive side. And then it seemed like once he got Tom Brady, he was able to put the right people there and kind of take his vision to translate it onto the field.
Yes.
And I assume they're able to do that with Charlie Weiss early on, who, has a very good reputation on the offensive side of the ball, up and down as a head coach, but overall very renowned offensively, right?
Right.
So I think you look at those seasons and what is potentially there for him. I mean, I think it almost flips the entire script where in reality you're waiting for Peyton Manning to finally win that Super Bowl and, 10, 11 years into his career. He might end up, I think maybe having 4 or 5 before 2005 at this point.
Pretty ambitious.
I think they made it to the AFC title game his second season already. So we'll just take it from there. And when did he actually win? It was in 2006. So February of 2007. So before he wins one in real life, I'm saying he's got 3 or 4.
All right, yeah. Yeah, so it's kind of interesting. Like I keep trying to go to like Bill Parcells. I think would have been losing his mind with Peyton Manning his rookie year, especially if he's turning the ball over at the rate that he was. I don't think Bill Parcells is going to let him let it rip the way that he was able to with Indianapolis.
Yeah.
And I think that drives him into a one season wonder as far as like a head coach with the Jets, and kind of like pulls this timeline along, and with Belichick, he's going to be way more patient. So I don't know if I would be as aggressive, say 3 or 4 on my end, but I think there's a good chance he has 2.
Yeah, I mean, look at who he has on his team as a rookie, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he doesn't have anybody really back there supporting him. I guess he has Marshall Falk there, who is what kind of tail end of his. He has him for 1 season, then he goes to the Rams. So
Yeah, and that's where he was maybe drafted in our alternate players that we want to see in the future.
yeah, but his second season, he's already going 13-3. Peyton Manning is in Indianapolis.
Yeah, very true. And
So
so you're saying like with the skills and skill
yeah,
players and with the coaching that he'll have with the Jets.
and let's see, by 2003, he's MVP the first time, and then MVP the second time in 2004. I mean, his win totals he wins less than 10 games twice in his first ever, basically until 2015 when he's 7-2, when he's got that weird half season with Denver. So
Yeah.
but outside of that, yeah, has 3 wins in 98 and 6 wins in 2001. And outside of that, he never has less than 10 wins. And he's got 4 MVPs between 03 and 09. And I'll just go ahead and say that some of the other MVPs, I'd say that the 07 MVP and the 2010 MVP are potentially up for grabs, because the winner of those is Tom Brady, who likely is not.
Tom Brady.
So kind of shifting into what happens in New England, I think they just muddle around and become probably like the Jets were, right?
I was gonna say,
Kind of like, because they had up and down seasons, but they were never able to get past their division rival, really.
true. Yeah, I mean, the Jets. We kind of laugh a little bit about the Jets, but they had seasons where they were somewhat formidable. I mean, they had some good years, but yeah, you start thinking about New England. It's like New England they're missing their 2 core people who made the dynasty what it was.
Yeah. So since 1998, which would have been Manning's second season there, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was the Jets won their division that year, and then they won it in 2002, and that's the only time they've won that division. There's 2 seasons since 1998.
Wow.
So, things change a lot. And, you have some decent Miami seasons at that time that pop up, and obviously the Patriots for the latter half of that. But, and it's almost trying to think of what happens to Tom Brady. Maybe he still gets drafted. Maybe Drew Bledsoe still gets hurt, but not in the same situation. Does Drew Bledsoe even go there? Maybe. And, you start looking at this ripple effect. And what I think may happen is Brady becomes almost like the Sean McVay 20 years earlier, 10 years earlier, where he finds his way out of the league because he doesn't have a stable starting spot and just starts coaching. And you almost have that aspect of it where
Interesting.
Because he's got the mind. And if he doesn't,
for sure.
And if he doesn't have the ability to push him up over the edge where on the field, he's got to find an outlet for that, right?
Yeah. And
Maybe
there's a
he
lot
goes
to be
into announcing earlier, but I don't know that necessarily he doesn't have the same. It's a longer road for him that way.
I mean, and there's a lot to be said for the fact that he, because he went to Michigan, he has, maybe a little bit more of a network.
Yeah.
To get into some of those different avenues versus somebody that went to maybe a lesser known college or something like that, for sure.
Yeah. And, I think there's any number of other Patriots that we could go down the rabbit hole on, but, I think just Brady is probably the biggest domino and
Oh yeah,
what
for
that
sure.
does for the league. Because you think of, I mean, he is impacting pretty much every season once he starts, right? From '01 through 2022. So it's a 22-year stretch of him looming over the season in some regard.
I mean, he's the one, or his teams are the ones that are compared to Manning's the most, right? And without him
Yeah.
in the way, it makes this scenario, it does make the Jets even more. I mean, the more we talk about it, it's like, oh, okay, that's like another domino that you don't, not even domino, like roadblock that you don't have to go through.
Yeah.
And
And
that's
then,
quite the roadblock.
yeah. I don't think the Colts really become much either. I'm not sure what their other options were in the 98 draft. Maybe I'll pull that up here.
It's a very, this is the other rabbit hole. You want to get into it? I know.
Yeah. Yeah. We can jump into it now.
So the quarterback that was taken right
That's
after
right.
Peyton Manning at that draft was Ryan Leaf.
Yep.
So Ryan Leaf, famous for probably being the big, okay, we won't call him the biggest bust
Yeah.
in NFL history,
But other people
and
have.
other people have. I mean, and if he was the number one overall pick in this year, and his trajectory ends up being what it was, yes. Okay. Then he is the biggest bust, along with like Jamarcus Russell and some of these other ones.
Yeah.
So it's like, Ryan Leaf going to the Colts, theoretically they swing and miss. And after a year, they're looking for another quarterback. And I didn't go into like the 1999 draft, but honestly, if I was the Colts, I think I'd be looking for a veteran QB for a couple of years
Yeah.
after dealing with a season or less of the Ryan Leaf experiment.
Yeah. Well, the 99 draft had 3 quarterbacks taken 1, 2, 3. Tim Couch,
Okay, yeah.
Donovan McNabb,
Okay.
and then the Bengals had the next pick.
So Achilles Smith?
It was Achilles Smith.
Yeah. Okay.
And then the Colts had the next pick and took Edgerrin James.
Oh man. And that's
And then right after Edgerrin James is Ricky Williams. Actually, this was a really good draft. Number 11 was actually Dante Culpepper. Was the next quarterback taken, but Champ Bailey, Torrey Holt were in that draft. Javon Curse.
the Tim Couch. I remember seeing Tim Couch play in person, and it was one of the most amazing like in person performances I've ever seen. And I actually have a Tim Couch Browns jersey in my closet because of that. Yeah, so he played for UK, and it's like seeing him go from that like Kentucky blue just crossing straight over into the Colts blue. I mean, it kind of works for him. You would like have built-in fans because they don't have to turn in their jerseys. They can just wear their Kentucky blue jerseys, just transfer their fandom to the Colts.
Yeah. Yeah, they'd probably still sell jerseys. And yeah, I mean, he was around for a little bit. Like, he didn't just like flame out right away, I don't feel like.
No, but I mean, it's the Browns system, right? Like, they're famous for that jersey with all the last names on it. Yeah, and unfortunately, he was one of the first ones in that jersey.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you kind of look, like you said, look at the Colts history, Ryan Leaf to maybe Tim Couch to mediocrity, because they're probably missing out on Edgerrin James, and we can go on and on and on.
Yeah. Well, they probably, it's always with the NFL. I feel like these teams, they have like one good year that you don't remember. Like they're
Yeah.
even the Jets. They had that one season with what's his name, Mark Sanchez, where they went to the AFC Championship game,
Oh yeah.
and it's just you forget about some of these seasons where kind of the unexpected happens. So, do they win a Super Bowl? Probably not. The unexpected team usually doesn't do that. I feel like there's kind of that manifest destiny where the better team with the better guys usually, rise to the top. But up until the AFC Championship, it's almost like anything can happen.
Oh yeah.
Or NFC Championship, I guess I should say too.
Very true.
So I guess, yeah, the other thing we haven't really hit on is Eli, right? So I think the Giants push even harder, frankly, to get Eli just because they've been so irrelevant up to that point that they have a built-in narrative having the other Manning, right?
I mean, you arguably, because Jets and Giants, do they still share a stadium?
They do.
I think.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's like you have a Manning playing every week now,
Yeah.
right? In New York, it's kind of fascinating to think about. You talk about just like New York in general, they would eat that up until unless one of them was doing really poorly. But I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, they obviously always played in separate conferences, never wanting to get in each other's way in the playoffs.
Sure.
And they never met in the Super Bowl. But, I do wonder what that would be like, assuming, the Jets are as dominant as we think they would be with Peyton Manning, to have that relationship at that level. The closest thing I can think of was the Harbaugh brothers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they seem like they still like each other. Probably. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
But, I'm trying to think of, Peyton's obviously at this point, if he's got his rings and Eli still pulls the wins, out of his butt the way that he did against Brady, say those are 2 Super Bowl losses for there, it almost rewrites Eli's legacy. Beating his older brother, but not having as many rings. I don't know what would make of that.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, Eli or the Giants would be pushing hard for him. I don't know. What year was Eli drafted? Do you remember?
I'll pull it up real quick, but I will say I did look up how many times they played against each other.
Mm-hmm.
Peyton was 3-0 against him.
Okay.
06, 2010, and 2013 with the Broncos. So the first game was the closest, 26-21. But Eli Manning, I mean, we covered him in the our one episode about that draft and rewriting that. It was the 04 draft.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
With him, Roethlisberger, and Phillip Rivers.
That's right. Yeah. Because I had forgotten what year that was, and I was going through my head. We were just talking about Ryan Leaf and his impact on San Diego. It's like, and it kind of set San Diego back, right?
Yeah.
For a while, to the point where they were. If the years were close enough, I would say it probably had an impact on them drafting first for Eli that year. But it's probably a little bit too far removed from his impact.
Yeah, maybe on the third time around.
Maybe on the third time, you're right.
But, I mean, I think whatever. Well, and I guess at that point, so I said before that Peyton has maybe 3 Super Bowls, maybe 4 before 2004. Do you think they're pushing that much to get him traded away? And maybe the Chargers at the time were just not the right solution. But you think they're pushing hard for a NFC team at that point? If it's like, well, Peyton, you got your ring, so we'll make sure it's not the same division. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. It's kind of, I think where I'm struggling a little bit is like even where they went to college, right? Like they both went to SEC schools, but they didn't go the route of going to the same school.
Yeah.
following the same footsteps, and it's like,
or even going to the same school as. Well, I guess Eli went to where his dad went.
yeah. But I think there's just like part of it where, the New York thing, right? Do they want him being like? Would they really be pushing for that? It doesn't
I mean,
necessarily feel
as a
what they
parent, it
do.
would be a lot easier, right?
Oh, as a parent, it would be awesome. But I think just from the standpoint of their track record
Yeah.
with these two,
Yeah. So if they're trying
I
to,
don't know if they push
yeah.
as hard.
So in theory, if they're trying to protect Eli, right?
Yeah.
Looking at that draft, I don't know where he goes if it's NFC and not San Diego and not the Giants. Just looking at who took quarterbacks, I mean, it's
Yeah, I mean, it was.
not at that point. You're trying to get somebody to probably trade off of their quarterback, right?
It's. I mean, gosh, yeah, I'm going down the same
So
list here.
the Falcons they took Matt Schaub in the third round, but they have Michael Vick right now, so that's they're not taking him.
Right.
Obviously, the way things played out, but I'm looking at 2005 to see if there's a. So the 49ers take Alex Smith at the top, and so maybe he ends up in San Francisco.
Yeah, could be.
Let's see who their quarterback is in '04. Yeah, maybe Ken Dorsey, Tim Rattay, or Brandon Doman. Not sure how those. So yeah, they could take him. Maybe they trade around for him. They were 2-14.
There's a.
Well, maybe I'm looking at the wrong season.
I also wonder.
Jeff Garcia was their quarterback. Maybe they try to trade up to get him to sit behind, but I think that's what they thought Ken Dorsey was. So
It's definitely a tough one.
yeah,
Yeah, but to your point, it's like, do they try to protect Eli? It's just more, do they want Eli to do his own thing within certain boundaries? And I think it's kind of hard to tell for me. I'm struggling to see one way or the other.
yeah.
You trying to think about Eli or something else?
Well, just kind of what happens with that whole era, right? Like, I'm thinking bigger picture, like, so I doubt there's that level of perfection that the Patriots almost achieved, because Tom Brady is wired differently than Peyton Manning.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think there's ever that 16-0 season. You don't have all of that. And I don't, I think Peyton showed that he didn't play as long as Tom Brady. Obviously they were drafted different times, but, his body, the way he played, broke down faster. And it's just hard to think about erasing all those Patriot years.
I mean,
Belichick doesn't wind up at UNC. I'll say that.
it does. It changes a ton, over time.
Yeah.
I think this is where it's tough, and anyone could probably go down specific avenues, but I think it's the specifics that are like the interesting debates. Is from like the error standpoint. There's probably, I think eventually there is some parity that forms. Like you said, I think early on maybe there's a cluster of Super Bowls, maybe very similar to like what we've experienced with the Chiefs recently. But maybe there's like a quicker adaptation to this new norm, and I think what makes it different from like what New England did, even though you're talking about the same coach and whatnot, there's maybe a little bit more urgency to keep the momentum in a place like New York, where if something does go wrong, if there is an off season or two,
Yeah.
do they hit the panic button? Because I do feel like that's kind of a little bit of a Jets thing to do.
Yeah.
which is why there hasn't been consistent success.
Yeah. Well, and I always, one thing you hit on is that cluster of championships. And, I think that was something that Brady and Belichick were able to do is rebound and rebuild after that. Their rebuilding periods were a 10-6 year and a AFC championship loss to Peyton Manning. It wasn't it wasn't like a 3-13 year. So, I do wonder if Peyton is able to rebuild the same way because it kind of feel he kind of had the Marvin Harrison come up and Edgerrin James, and then as they were going out, he had Reggie Wayne, and then it was kind of those last few years where all of a sudden things weren't going as well, and he ends up getting hurt and then goes to the Broncos. So I think his say 10-14 year window might be even smaller at the Jets, kind of like you're saying, where maybe he ends up looking for another team like the Broncos. Maybe he still ends up out there in 2012. Yeah, 2012.
So there was one team that we didn't talk about. It's a little bit off the wall, but they were impacted greatly by the scenario that we're proposing, and it's the Rams. So the Rams were the number one pick in the 97 draft via trade. And in 97, they replaced, in 97, they replaced Jackie Slater, who was like a 20-year Hall of Famer on their offensive line, with Orlando Pace coming out of that draft.
Who was a 20-year Hall of Famer.
He was a 20-year Hall of Famer for their offensive line.
He only played 11 years, but
okay, 11 years. Hey, if you play 11 years on the as the offensive lineman and make the Hall of Fame, that's good.
He only made 7 Pro Bowls in those from 99 to 2005.
Well, either way, but yeah, so the Rams were replacing a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
97 with Orlando Pace, and then kind of flashing forward there by 1999. That was the beginning of the greatest show on turf. They we're talking about Kurt Warner was winning the MVPs. You had mentioned Marshall Faulk leaving Indy to join that team. And I guess the question is, how valuable is an offensive lineman that's taken number one overall in an NFL draft? Does it change this situation with the Rams?
Yeah, it's got to. I mean, you look at so Orlando Pace, if he's not drafted there, where's he drafted?
He's probably drafted
number 2.
Number 2, which would be Oakland.
Well, that was a trade from New Orleans. So I wonder if New Orleans.
He's probably going to the Saints.
Yeah.
I don't know what the Saints roster looked like that year. I could probably find it relatively quickly. But I mean,
anyway. Yeah, I don't know that. I mean, you look at being Bengals fans. Well, tried to be. Look at what Joe Burrow does without an offensive line and what he did with one 4 or 5 years ago when he went to the Super Bowl.
Right.
There's a big difference there. So now if you're missing Orlando Pace, that's probably a big problem for Kurt Warner's quick release offense, right?
Yes.
So if you're under pressure right away or you don't have that behemoth of a blocker, that's going to impact something in some regard.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, I'm trying to find if there's any other multiple Pro Bowl offensive tackles taken. There's Walter Jones down there who ended up being, looks like he's a Hall of Famer as well. All right.
Yeah. He is.
So maybe they end up with him and everything plays out the same.
Well, because Seattle got that pick from St. Louis.
Yep.
via the trade. So I mean,
Yeah.
there's probably a very good chance that they end up, in that spot to get Walter Jones.
Yeah.
And so maybe nothing does change, and it's kind of a moot point. But I always think about that as like offensive linemen. We always talk about how they don't get a ton of love, but it's like, I think they do get some love from the teams that kind of know what they're doing when they draft them. And that's why I thought it was,
Yeah.
a pretty decent ripple for that organization that right on the heels of that draft pick, a
Yeah.
year later, they were something really special.
Well, because they were in St. Louis a lot. I thought they moved to LA a lot quicker than that. But so that was only their second or third year in St. Louis. And they were there for 20 years. They left in 2015.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I don't know that they're leaving any sooner.
Yeah, I mean, they probably not. I'm sure there's contracts and
Yeah.
things like that were in place, but is it a quicker? Do they kind of throw in the towel a little bit quicker and just like, you know what, we tried, we failed, move on.
Well, the other so the other thing with the Jets. So the Jets were sold in 99, and that's when Woody Johnson bought that franchise. So, there's a chance that he is, as they're selling that's probably driving that price up with Peyton being there. I'm not sure what that does other than more money moving hands, but resetting the value for franchises earlier too, and driving up all the money, I guess that's a good way to say it.
Sure.
Yeah. I think that's about everything.
Yeah, I think that's everything. I know probably before I go to bed tonight, I'm going to be going through all these drafts. I love going back in time through the drafts. It's like going through the 97 draft. It's like, wow, look at some of these guys. I think I can say that probably about every single draft there is.
I know, and it's amazing what hindsight does to some of these drafts. It's like, what
Yeah.
were you thinking?
It's
That
like,
Hall of Famer was still available.
yeah, it's like, what? Tony Gonzalez was dropped all the way down to number 13? Like, are they crazy?
Tom Brady
Yeah.
in the 7th round.
Yeah, it's like, what? This doesn't make any sense. Yeah. Good stuff.
All right. Sounds good. See you. And that's a wrap for today. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and share, and be sure to tune in next time.